Yes, I'm Lee Foster. I run the information management and security practice here at Insentra. That practice is fundamentally split into two pieces, and one is to talk about information as it resides in the ecosystem, in businesses and organisations. And I like to think of that like an iceberg, and we refer to that as the data berg. Where effectively the information sits within that iceberg, and what you see above the water is literally 10% of the information that you actually hold and reside, and the associated risk. What sits below the water is all of what we call the dark data. The deeper you go, the darker it gets, the harder it is to understand. We talk about servers and systems that support and serve up that information and the associated risks that are with those servers and systems. Look at those as custodians, right? So often people look at the information and the data, what resides there, and forget about the custodians and the servers that actually serve up the information. So part of what we do in the information management side of the business is help businesses understand what is in that iceberg, what is above the water, what's below the water, and shine a light on that dark data. And then we take the security side and we slice through the iceberg and show them the layers within the iceberg as to where the risks reside. So from a security standpoint, we're able to identify risks, mitigate risks, and if we come back to those custodians, provide guidance and advisory how best to protect against malware and some of the recent attacks like WannaCry and Pedia. So that's fundamentally what the practice is there to do. We have a team of guys in that practice that are security experts and consultants, and on the information management side, exactly the same. The trends in security are fundamentally around that iceberg, right? We can use that analogy all the way through this, but without shining a light, people tend to just rely upon set and forget software or set and forget services. So we have a compelling need or a compelling event, so we'll put some services or software in place to combat that, and they tend to set and forget that. That's a thing of the past in a lot of instances. But what's key to understand is what businesses are doing now to combat and overcome those vulnerabilities, and the key to that is agility, right? So you need to be able to take the systems, the services, and the custodians and leverage next generation advanced threat protection type technologies to provide early warning systems and show you where the gaps and risks are within that iceberg. So again, coming back to the custodians and talking about recent threats and risks, having next generation advanced threat protection in place will completely bring to the surface the risks that reside within those systems and the data that they hold, and show you which systems, for example, aren't patched, which systems don't have the available patches that need to be there for Microsoft to combat things like WannaCry and Pedia. Using that next gen technology, we're able to pull out, highlight those risks, and then mitigate those accordingly through things like sandboxing and sandbox detonation and so on. The trends are to absolutely adopt that, so not go down the road of set and forget type software. Be in the leading edge. You've got to be at the forefront of this. You've got to be in the front line. We can't sort of sit back and say, well, we have endpoint protection in place, we have firewalls. You know, the current mindset of the hacker or the disgruntled employee is very easy to circumnavigate a lot of this stuff. And again, using that iceberg, you don't know what's lurking in the dark water, right? So you've got to be proactive on the front foot, slicing that open regularly, and then adopting the next gen technologies to help combat that. So yeah, in the past, the mantra has been, we come up against it every day talking to partners and customers. Lee, you're talking to me about this next gen technology. My systems aren't broken, I'm not being hacked, I'm not feeling any pain. Why should I fix it? Same applies. These are the people, if I can say these are the people, these are the organisations that are looking at above the water. They're looking at the iceberg that's clear, it's in the sunlight, they know what's going on, it's not melting, everything's good. And they don't care too much about what's under the water because they're not being hurt by it. It's our job through advisory to be able to bring that information higher above the water, more clarity, remove the risk. So it's not broken, I don't want to fix it. It doesn't work in this market anymore. It really is our job, and it's what we do day to day, to advise and educate, as I said, partners and end users and customers, and to let us shine a light on that dark data and information, let us show you how it's being used. And once you're advised, you're enabled. And once you're enabled, you can take action. And it's surprising what organisations do once they start to shine a light on information that they're keeping, they're storing on systems. And in some cases, they're in breach of compliance. They could be keeping personal information that they're not entitled to keep anymore. So as much as we're helping them mitigate risk, we're actually showing them where the risk resides and allowing them to take the right action to deal with the things like personal information. So again, legacy, set and forget. It's not broken, I don't need to fix it. It just doesn't work in this market, in this age of cybersecurity. So quantifying risk is coming back to the data berg. It's a great analogy to use. It's, again, above the water, I know what I know. Below the water, I don't know what I don't know. So leveraging advisory type services or advisory led services to help slice open the iceberg and show you the layers that lay within it and the risk components that are within those slices really elevates, the CXOs of organisations to the point that they can make very significant decisions in the right direction for a business and in a public business for the shareholders. Mitigate risk and avoid the volatility of the share market. So once an organisation CXOs at the board level can understand that, they're able to make very informed decisions about things like legacy platforms. They may be running systems and services that just don't comply. Out-of-date hardware, out-of-date software, non-compliant operating systems that aren't patched. Be it Linux, Unix, Windows, it doesn't matter. It applies across the board, but until they can shine a light on that dark data and information and the systems, and I haven't even talked about what resides outside of the data berg and the custodians that manage and support that, and talked about software as a service and platform as a service through things like AWS and Azure and so on. Organisations, that data berg still applies if you shift it to the cloud. Just talk about it as a cloud. What's above the cloud line or what's below the cloud line. It's what they know is being adopted and used as far as apps go, and shadow IT that is being spun up by organisations to solve a development need or a peak in demand need that an organisation doesn't know about. So again, the advisory services allows us to pull that apart and present back to a business, this is where your risks are, this is what's being used. And that is when I refer to next-gen threat protection, this is where the market is headed. This is the focus now. That there are still organisations that have the old custodian type server platforms, still lots of them, but there are just as many, if not more, that are adopting cloud or public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud to deliver services to their business. Again, from what's the future of cybersecurity? How do we stay ahead of this game and not appear on the news and in the press? I've talked about dark data, I've talked about the data berg and the iceberg and the dark water. The analogy is dark, right? It's discover what you have. Analyse what you have, take action and repeat. That process is a repetitive process. Continue to discover, continue to analyse and repeat that process. Quantify risk, right? Once we understand that information, what is the risk? Let's quantify it, let's put a figure to it, and let's identify it and get a mitigation plan in place for risk. And kill the threat, right? So again, legacy, set and forget, it's reactive, not proactive. The reason the WannaCry didn't go as far as it did is because somebody unknowingly took down a domain and created a kill switch. That's what we've got to do every day. That's why you're on the front line. Develop that kill switch, leverage what's around, leverage next gen, leverage cloud adoption the right way, and we can create that kill switch and stay ahead of the curve. To find out more, click on the link below.